On the other side of the world, North Korea sends troops to Russia, while Venezuela receives military support from the Kremlin in Moscow. Coincidence? Or a sign of a new order being born? The Bible warned that nations would unite before a great change. And what today seems like politics could actually be a prophecy unfolding. Discover the biblical destiny behind this alliance between Russia, North Korea, and Venezuela. Between heaven and earth. The world's chessboard has begun to move with unsettling precision. What once seemed impossible is now unfolding before our eyes. While the Western powers struggle to maintain balance, new alliances are being woven in silence. Agreements that could transform not only politics, but the spiritual destiny of the planet. From Asia comes a headline that has captured the world's attention. North Korea has sent thousands of workers to Russia, claiming to assist in reconstruction efforts. Yet reports and images suggest something far beyond civil labor. At a time when Moscow seeks resources and reinforcements, this cooperation represents military support, political loyalty, and a clear geopolitical message. Russia needs allies. North Korea needs relevance. Two nations, sanctioned and isolated, now join forces. And in that union, more than strategy can be sensed. There is a prophetic pattern. Ecclesiastes 1-9 says, "What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." Each generation repeats its own alliances, wars, and reconstructions. But this time, the extremes of the world are converging. The communist East and the wounded West. It echoes the ancient coalitions the Bible warned about, nations rising with one same spirit of defiance. Meanwhile, another movement unfolds thousands of miles away. Venezuela extends its hand to Russia, seeking military and technological aid to resist the influence of the United States in the region. Moscow responds with radars, advisors, and energy support. What once seemed like a distant link has become a global web of cooperation. And thus, what began in Asia now reaches the Americas. The map is being redrawn. The alliances emerging today are more ideological than territorial. They are not about borders, but about systems of thought striving to impose their model upon the world. Matthew 24-7 warned, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." These words go beyond tanks and armies. They speak of a spirit that invades humanity, ambition, control, and the relentless thirst for power. Every human alliance is the visible reflection of an invisible war. Empires rise and fall, but the forces that drive them remain the same. In Babel, men united to reach the heavens. Today, nations unite to dominate the earth. History repeats itself because the human heart never changes. And yet, God never loses control. Daniel 2:21 reminds us, He changes times and seasons. He removes kings and raises up others. Nothing that happens escapes His purpose. Human treaties are signed in offices, but the true script is written in heaven. Look at the pattern. North Korea, Russia, and Venezuela. Three different nations, three histories of isolation and resistance, three protagonists of one same global movement. Each seeks to recover power, yet together they seem to form a prophetic puzzle piece announced centuries ago. Ephesians 6:12 adds depth. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and rulers of the darkness. This is not a battle between countries. It's a spiritual war disguised as diplomacy. That's why the believer must look beyond the headlines and seek the message behind them. Ask yourself, what truly moves nations, power or fear? And what moves your heart when you see these events? The believer does not fear the news. They interpret it. Wars do not destroy them. They awaken them. Alliances do not confuse them. They prepare them. Because in the midst of political noise, God still speaks in silence. Consider the parallel. In the days of Noah, humanity also united, not to seek God, but to ignore him. Today, as world powers gather to challenge one another, humanity repeats the same mistake. And once again, God calls his people to build an ark, not of wood, but of faith. While empires sign treaties, the Creator raises steadfast hearts, people capable of standing in peace when everything around them shakes. For no human agreement is eternal. Neither Babylon nor Rome, nor the modern empires could sustain their glory. All fell, and all fell the same way, when they believed their power was invincible. Psalm 2:1-4 gives us a clear image. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth rise up, and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. What a powerful irony! While men plan to dominate the world, God watches from heaven, knowing every limit. And here lies the message for you, the one listening to these words. When earthly alliances grow stronger, God seeks spiritual alliances with hearts that remain faithful. While governments build walls and armies, the eternal kingdom grows quietly inside those who choose to believe. So when you see the headlines, remember, the news speaks of power, but the Bible speaks of purpose. The agreements between Russia, North Korea, and Venezuela may trouble the world, but they should awaken the believer. For everything that happens on earth is merely an echo of what has already been foretold. What the world calls geopolitics may, in truth, be the visible manifestation of an invisible plan. Every time a nation rises, a prophecy moves. Every time one leader challenges another, heaven's clock advances by one more second. And though men believe they hold control, God's kingdom remains firm, unshaken, eternal. So do not look at these alliances with fear, but with discernment. Do not be carried away by confusion, but by faith. Because between heaven and earth, the wars of men only reveal something far greater, that God is still writing history, and every political movement may be one more piece in the fulfillment of his word. Behind every treaty, every pact, and every military display, there is an invisible force moving the pieces on the world's board. Man believes he controls history, but in truth, he is only part of a much greater story. When Ephesians 6:12 says, "We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers," it gives us the key to understand our times. Wars and alliances do not begin in embassies. They begin in the human heart. The same spirit that once said, "I will ascend and be like the Most High," Isaiah 14:13, is the same spirit driving nations today to seek power without limits. Russia seeks allies to sustain its influence. North Korea offers them. After years of international sanctions, Russia is trying to open new channels with nations independent of the Western financial system. In return, North Korea receives wheat, oil, and political backing, strengthening its image at home. What appears in the news as technical cooperation is, in reality, a move to preserve power under a new world order. Venezuela seeks protection. Russia provides it. Since the United States increased its military presence in the Caribbean, the Venezuelan government has looked to Moscow as its shield. Russia responds with military advisors and energy promises, aiming to regain influence in Latin America and prove that it still stands as a global power. And without realizing it, the world is dividing into new blocks. It's not a new conflicto, it's a repeating pattern. The Bible spoke of it in Daniel 11, when it mentioned the king of the north and the king of the south. These are more than geographic directions. They represent opposing forces. Powers preparing the world stage as tension builds like a wave that has yet to break. Yet even as alliances appear to be human strategies, there is a deeper spiritual logic behind them. These movements do not occur in a vacuum. Behind every agreement are mixed motives. Some seek survival, others dominance, others merely balance. But in that pursuit of control, the same story repeats. Humanity, seeking security without looking to heaven. God allows these movements to reveal what has been hidden. The confusion of nations is not a mistake. It is a mirror reflecting the condition of the world. A planet united in technology, yet divided in purpose. Powerful in weapons, yet poor in wisdom. Isaiah 32-17. The fruit of righteousness will be peace. The effect of righteousness will be quietness and confidence forever. Nations cry out for peace, but build on injustice. And where there is no justice, peace can never be real. If you look through history, every time empires unite in the name of strength, something eventually breaks. Egypt allied with Babylon and fell. Rome made pacts with its enemies and collapsed from within. And today, new empires repeat the cycle, believing their power will sustain them. Jeremiah 51-12. Raise a banner against the walls of Babylon. Strengthen the guard, for the Lord has fulfilled his purpose against her. It is not punishment. It is consequence. When humanity stops looking toward heaven, it ends up building its own hell. These modern alliances, North Korea with Russia, Russia with Venezuela, and blocs defying the West, are not mere political gestures. They are symbols of human pride, attempts to rewrite history without God. And every effort to be independent from the divine only produces more dependence on fear, on weapons, on control. The real question is not what will happen to these nations, but what is God doing through all this? God is not surprised by human alliances. He uses them to move the hearts of people. When humanity shakes, the Spirit of God awakens those still able to listen. Isaiah 26-3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. The believer who trusts in God does not live in fear, but in discernment. Where others see chaos, they see signs. Where the world hears rumors of war, they hear a voice whispering, "Do not fear. I am still here." That is the difference between those who follow the news and those who follow the Word. The headlines change every hour, but the Word remains forever. The Bible's history is filled with moments when God allowed nations to rise, not to reward them, but to expose the human heart. In Genesis 11, he confused the languages of Babel. In Exodus, he hardened Pharaoh's heart. In Ezekiel, he permitted kingdoms to face each other. Every time, the purpose was the same: to remind man that he is not God. When the noise grows louder, it's because the message is about to be revealed. And when the shadows grow longer, it's because the dawn is near. Matthew 24-33. When you see all these things, know that it is near, right at the door. Jesus did not speak of dates or theories. He spoke of signs, and those signs are here: the rise of unlikely alliances, the spread of global fear, the erosion of spiritual values, the desire for control disguised as progress. Each one reminds us that heaven's clock is still moving, not toward destruction, but toward restoration. Because even as the world falls into disorder, the kingdom of God continues to be built. The Holy Spirit is gathering people who refuse to surrender to fear or despair, who stand firm on the promise, "Do not fear, for I am with you." Isaiah 41-10. That is the hidden message behind the movements of our time. Human alliances will shake, ideologies will wear out, Political promises will break, but there is one kingdom that cannot be shaken, and that kingdom is the one you belong to. If you remain firm, if your faith depends not on the world's condition, but on God's eternal word, you will not be moved. The world makes alliances out of fear, but God offers a covenant out of love. Psalm 33 to 10-11. The Lord frustrates the plans of the nations, but his purpose stands forever. When nations scheme, he watches. When the powerful conspire, he waits. And when the world trembles, he acts. God never loses control. He is simply fulfilling his word, step by step, as he promised. Psalm 99-2. The Lord is exalted over all the nations. His glory is above the heavens. When that day comes, when world powers confront each other and the earth seems lost, the children of God will not see fear, but purpose, because they will know that history does not end on earth. It ends in heaven. And when the alliances of men dissolve, only one voice will remain. The Lord reigns. Until that day, stay in peace. Guard your heart. Hold on to your faith. Because though the earth trembles and leaders rise and fall, God remains the same, yesterday, today, and forever. Thank you for watching until the end. If this message helped you see the world through spiritual eyes, share it with someone who needs hope. And keep watching more videos about the prophecies and mysteries of the Bible that unfold between heaven and earth. May God's blessing be with you.